Hi, my name is Verna DePaul. I'm an author and contributor to the HEA romance blog at usatoday.com, and I'm here today with Susan and Clay Griffith, who are authors who happen to be married. So thank you for being with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
Clay, can you give us a brief overview of your Vampire Empire series?
I can. It's the trilogy. It's a trilogy. It's called Vampire Empire. First book is called The Greyfriar. Second book is The Rift Walker. Book 3, coming out this year, is The Kingmakers. It is an alternate history, steampunk, romance, pulp adventure. Pretty much every genre we could find. It's a neo-Victorian world, although set in the future. The basic premise is vampires destroyed the industrial world during the height of the Victorian era. Humans fled to the equator because vampires in our world cannot sustain living in the heat. It's now 150 years later. There are new neo-Victorian human societies that have formed, and they're ready to move north and retake their former lands by destroying the vampire clans. That's it.
Sounds complex and fabulous. Susan, Clay talked about how the vampires in your series don't like the heat. Can you tell us how else they're different from what readers might be used to?
Yeah, we wanted to go a little bit in a different direction than the way vampires have been taken recently. So we're basically reinventing the old classic style vampire. So in addition to not liking the heat, which is they're an alternate species, like a parasitic species. So they're not really the undead. They're more of a subspecies that have grown up alongside humans. And so there's some different myths about vampires that we try to explore and give valid reasons for why those myths might have come about, like the heat, like religion, all these little aspects, and try and give them a valid scientific reason as to why they might have come about. But they're truly the dark creatures, the blood-sucking, fierce creatures of old versus anything, light and lovey.
So the series definitely has a dark edge to it. Clay, you mentioned, though, it also is a romance. So can you tell us about the romance between Princess Adela and Greyfriar?
Yeah, two main characters who carry the trilogy. Princess Adela, who's our main character, is the heir to the primary human kingdom of our world. Greyfriar is a almost mythic freedom fighter against the vampires. They meet in the first book, of course, and it's not really intended to be a romance per se, because the romance doesn't start early on. It's a very slow developing romance. They are fighting with each other for their survival. So they depend on one another, then they come to trust one another, and then eventually they come to love one another.
So this question is for both of you. Individually and together, you've written novels, scripts for television, and graphic novels. Which of these formats has been easiest or hardest for you?
For me, the novel has been the easiest to write. I'm a very verbose writer, and so I tend to want to get inside the heads of characters and give lots of descriptions. In comic books, you can't do that. You have to be a very succinct editor of your own work in terms of getting the right dialogue down for the right moment, and you're condensed by word balloons. And so to me, it was a big exercise in editing, which is great, and that has played, has been great in terms of the novel, just because we've been able to really keep it crisp and keep it well edited in terms of, there's no fat on any of the dialogue or anything. But it was harder for me to write the comic books, though, like I said, it was a great lesson. So I enjoyed it. Clay's the opposite.
Yeah, I'm sort of the opposite. I enjoy writing novels, but I really do like writing comics because I like the structure. I like the visual application to the writing, where you have to think about the art, you have to think about the placement of characters, you even have to think about the placement of the panels on the page. And then you have to write dialogue that has to be short and to the point and still have an emotional content or a humorous content, which I enjoy.
And one commenter has said that she loves the cover of book 3 of your series, in part because Adela looks so tough. So can you give us an idea of how Adela changes throughout the 3 books in the series?
She starts off as not being weak, but just being kind of innocent. And over the course of the 3 books, she is put through so much when she is taken prisoner by the vampires and being forced to stand up on her own. And as we go through, she has to make a lot of hard decisions, not just about herself, but about her duty to her kingdom. And there's a lot of growing up over the course. And she learns a lot about herself. And some of it is very frightening to her and is going to be a major player within the storyline. And so by the end of the series, she's become an instrument almost of war in terms of against the vampires. So we're very hopeful that people do get to see this arc of transition for her, where she comes from being a young girl on the cusp of womanhood and all the way to being a force of nature. We
should also mention our cover artist is Chris McGrath, who we're very lucky to have and who we adore.
Yes.
I've seen the covers and they're gorgeous. So book 3, The Kingmakers, releases September 2012. Clay, is there anything that you'd like to tell the readers specifically about that book and what's coming next for you guys?
Well, Kingmakers is a big book. It's an epic book. It's a good finish for the trilogy. It brings the war against the vampires into full play. We have basic trench warfare in Europe with the human armies facing vampire packs. But again, at its heart, as the readers who've read the first 2 know, it's really about Adela and Greyfriar and how they struggle to maintain a relationship against the backdrop of this horrendous war, which is threatening both major species on Earth, the humans and the vampires, and how they're going to make that work between the 2 of them. So it's a human story with a big epic war story in the background.
Great. And Susan, what do you have coming up after this?
We are focusing a great deal on the release of Kingmakers. So we're busy trying to get the convention schedule working for this season. We will be at Dragon Con for the release in September. And we're also hoping to be at New York Comic Con in October. And we have a steampunk convention coming up, I think, next month.
To the end of June in Chapel Hill called Contemporary.
So we're trying to really get the fervor going, because this is one of the big conclusions. So we're really excited about it and hoping that the fans embrace it and have the opportunity to meet with us in as many places as we can.
Wonderful. Well, I have one more question for you. You guys obviously work so well together. I was just curious, have you ever had arguments about creative differences where you were on complete opposite sides of a position?
We were just having one probably 10 minutes ago.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. You argue all the time. I mean, that's just the nature of it. Sometimes we're on the same page, sometimes we're not. But we find out, even when we're on different pages, we're actually on opposite sides of the same page. So we're not that far apart.
Yeah, we always think one's more to the extreme either way than the other, but it turns out we're right smack in the middle. We're just not quite seeing the other's point of view. But if we can keep at it, and we usually can come to the same conclusion, going, oh yeah, okay, we both sort of do agree. We just got to sort of take it one step further. So most of the arguments are very simple, but some of them can get big. But we have to, being married, you have to, work them out, because you got to meet each other over the dinner table in about 2 hours. So you better fix it, and you better get it right and make up.
It's a great incentive. Well, it's lovely talking with you. Thank you again for sharing information about your series, and good luck with your release.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.